Well, I got here in 1974, which was a good time in the journalism world. Watergate, Vietnam War had wound down, country was changing dramatically, and everybody was jazzed. Everybody wanted to be the new Woodward and Bernstein, and so did I.
Yeah.
So I came from teaching high school. I did that for a couple of years. Got accepted in the grad program here, came up, and you know, I basically had a great time in Boston. I took advantage of the stories that were here, the busing riots and things like that. And did a lot of writing for the Daily Free Press. Wrote 2 columns a week for them and other articles as well. So BU was a perfect fit for me. Well, they were my people. You know, Irish working class people in South Boston, and they were thrust into this terrible situation where their children were used as a social experiment by the federal government and say, look, we have to get integration, so we're going to bus the black kids into the white neighborhoods. And the white neighborhoods didn't know any blacks. You know, Boston, a very segregated city, always has been. Better now, but still, Boston still to this day is segregated somewhat. So my people, and they behaved terribly, I have to say. You know, when I went down there and saw them screaming at these little black kids and throwing rocks at them, I was appalled. But as a journalist, I had to just watch what happened, and I reported on it, but it was, you know, affected me. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, the more stories you cover that are that intense, the more interested you get in your profession. You know, if you're covering traffic accidents and burglaries, you know, But we got thrown in here in Boston in 1974 and 5, where I was here for a year and a half, to a lot of really intense stories. And so it just whetted my appetite for more. Well, I think, you know, to be successful in journalism, you have to build your resume. And I did. I went to Scranton, Pennsylvania. I started out there in a small market. Then I went to Dallas, Denver, Hartford, and then New York. I made New York in 5 years, which is very fast. And then I spent some time in New York and came back to Boston and worked at Channel 7 and Channel 5 here. But what you do is you just cover the stories and you cover them well. And I had a vision that I would just move up the line. And that's exactly what happened. I did local news, and I became a network correspondent. Then I did Inside Edition, which was a national syndicated show. And then from there I went back to school. I went to Harvard. I got another degree and designed The Factor, and then I was ready to do the commentary because I had put in 25 years what they call on the street. So I had been to 70 countries, I had covered 4 wars, I knew what I was talking about. In journalism, the smarter you are, the farther you'll go. It's as simple as that. If you're smart and you understand what the world is like and what the story is and who's telling the truth and who isn't, you're going to do well. If you're just one of the pack, you'll do okay, but you won't break out. My program is a commentary program, but my opinions are based on facts. So I do reporting in the sense that I tell my staff, you have to find out X, Y, and Z. And then I'm going to form my opinion based on what the facts are. I'm not an ideologue in the sense that I come in when everything conservative is great or everything liberal is great. We don't do that. We take each issue on its own, but we find out as much as we can about it. And we have great contacts. And so that, in 13 years on The Factor, I've never had to retract a story, now, ever. So that is a source of great pride for us, that my opinion is based on facts. I was out there on the street for a long time. It's warm in the studio. I got people fanning me, you know. So no, I do not miss being out on the street. If there is a big event happening, I'll go. You know, I was there when the Berlin Wall came down. I didn't get to Katrina. I regret that. I wanted to get there, but with so much going on, and it was hard to get in. But if I'm away from the desk, if I'm out in the field, then the show's ratings suffer. I mean, they need me behind a desk. But if there is something big, I'll go. Well, look, it's just a matter of what you want to do. If you want to specialize in science, or if you want to specialize in computers, or you want to specialize in movies, whatever. You just become as knowledgeable as you can about those things. That's number one. If you want to be just a general practitioner, a reporter or an anchorman or woman, What you need to do is read as much as you can. And I don't recommend anybody do what I do. You know, if you're in the opinion game, you're going to get slammed. So that's a pretty tough life. You got to really, you know, if you're going to dish it, they're going to come back at you. But if you really have to understand the rhythm of the world. You have to understand Iran. You have to understand North Korea, how these countries got where they are. What's the underlying cause? And you have to read. Read. I read all the time. I'm always reading. I read 10, 12 papers a day just to get a sample of what's going on around the country. I don't read them cover to cover. I'm going like this, and if I see some headline, then I go in. But you know, my information flow is enormous. I get what they call a news fax in the morning that has every story of importance and what really is happening in that story. And that takes me about 15, 20 minutes just to go through. And if I want more information, then I call and say, give me more on this, give me more on that. So information is really what drives my success. We're all surprised. I mean, you know, we know that Glenn Beck and Sean Hannity don't like Barack Obama. But that's just 2 hours out of the 24. You know, Greta Van Susteren and Shepard Smith do like Barack Obama. I don't think they mind me saying that. So we're surprised that the White House has taken this on. I mean, it's helped our ratings and doesn't make a lot of sense logistically to fight Fox News harder than you're fighting the Taliban. You know, so we're just worried about predator drones coming down and blowing us up. Why they're doing it, I don't really know. I don't think it's smart. I think it diminishes the president a little bit. But look, if he's got a beef, come on to Factor, tell me what's wrong, and we'll try to work it out. I've been real fair to him. How have they treated us?
Yeah, how have they treated you?
You know, once in a while they'll kick at somebody. Axelrod was on a couple of weeks ago. But, you know, you go on my show, it's rigorous. It's rigorous. I'm not going to let you just spout the talking points. So they kind of make a calculation, is it worth it? Do we really want to go through this? Sometimes they say yes, but most of the time they say no. We're just more interesting. It's as simple as that. You put on CNN and MSNBC, it's just, to me, it's boring. It's all get out. It's dull. Put us on, you know, there's a pulse there. You may not like us, you may disagree with us, but there's stuff happening. And on my show, I bring in all kinds of people. You know, Dennis Miller and Beck and Bernie Goldberg and Coulter and, you know, the liberal cadre, Combs and Mark Lamont Hill. And so we have so many different interesting people that I just think it's more interesting to watch FNC. I've always been that way, even at the Daily Free Press. I've always been aggressive. You know, if I wanted to be mellow, I'd be a barber. If you're going to be a journalist, you got to be aggressive. You got to have a chip on your shoulder. You got to be looking for the stories and speaking to power. Yeah, just take some shots of him. Look, listen to him in case you want to cut it.
Okay.
Now look at me. Don't nod. Don't nod. If you nod, that means you're agreeing. As a journalist, you don't agree or disagree. You just ask a question. So never nod. You're nodding. Don't nod.
It's the stone face.
All right, you got it?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.